Well, the chamber was filled, the atmosphere electric, as the prime minister took the rostrum to speak to a joint session of Congress. Several Democrats avoided the joint session. The vice president was not there, but I'll have to say it was a powerful speech. I pretty much got my exercise from getting up and down for the standing ovations that the prime minister received. I was in the chamber when he spoke back during the Obama administration, and I have to say this speech was even more forceful and putting in context what happened on October 7th, why this is an issue for America and not just Israel. Joining me now to talk more about this is New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith. He's also the co-chair of the Israel Allies Caucus. He's a frequent guest here on the Family Research, on the Washington Watch, great friend of the Family Research Council, strong supporter of Israel. Congressman Smith, thanks so much for joining us.
Tony, great to be with you, and it was great to see you again on the in the chamber just a few hours ago.
It was, and I got a chance to speak momentarily with the prime minister after the speech, and as you and I were talking, we weren't sure if I was going to make it back to the studio, and I didn't, but I'll get there eventually. Let me get your take on the prime minister's remarks to Congress. What were the key takeaways?
Well, one, it was a call to action. It was an expression of gratitude to the American people and to those in Congress, mostly Republicans, but some Democrats, notably, who have stood by Israel. There's been an erosion of support among the so-called progressive Democrats. And I, in 44 years as a member of Congress, never thought for a moment such an erosion would occur. But it's very real and very dangerous because Israel is facing an existential threat from Iran and from its proxies, including the Houthis and all the others that are, and of course Hamas, which is the most immediate threat.
And Congressman Smith, he made very clear that these entities that you just mentioned that work as proxies for Iran are not only threats to Israel, but the ultimate goal is America.
He brilliantly made that case and reminded everybody that Iran hates America. They routinely chant death to America. He reminded us all about the hostages that were taken during Jimmy Carter's reign, which was shameful. And of course, they were released when Ronald Reagan was being sworn in, and I was with him on the, right in front of the Capitol because I was a congressman then, and they were released when Reagan came in. There's been a long hostility and a threat, death to America. And as he said, death to Israel is always followed immediately by death to America. It's a poisoned, cruel perspective that these radical Islamists have towards America. We are an amazing country of all faiths, religions, people of every color, and that's a lot of strength there. They want to radicalize the world, and they think we're the greatest impediment to that. But they see Israel, they being Iran, and they are so anti-Semitic, it is gross. They hate Jews because they're Jews. I've read the Hamas charter. I've quoted it on the floor of the House of Representatives during debate. They talk about murdering Jews. They train their children. They train their children in these UN relief work camps. And I offered a bill that passed into committee to completely defund it, to say, teach them to hate. And when these 4 and 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds are old enough, they're carrying AK-47s and delighting in the violence they can inflict upon Israelis. And that includes
right, and that's funded. That has been funded. That's been funded by the United States in years past.
We're the largest funder by far. And Trump
was another.
Yeah, had
right,
shut
it was
off
defunded during the Trump administration.
Biden, and he just upped the funding right off the bat as soon as he came into office, despite all the
Congressman Smith, another point that he made that was at the beginning of his remarks, and I met with him last night, and he made similar comments. He wanted to make very clear that it's not just Israel against Iran. It's Israel and other Arab nations that are facing off with Iran and its proxies. So there are other Arab countries that are standing with Israel, knowing that Iran is a threat. And he made that point in today's speech.
It was an excellent point, and he lauded the Trump administration for the Abraham Accords, which was an effort to further cement peace and good relations between Arab countries and, of course, Israel. And, of course, Iran hates that. They want everyone to be embittered towards Jerusalem and towards the Israelis, and, of course, and towards us as well. But it was a great point that he made during this.
He also was, I thought, very gracious toward the Biden administration, a couple of times pointing out efforts that President Biden had made that were supportive and helpful since October the 7th.
He did do that, and there were times when the Biden administration was. But the problem is that it vacillated. The administration vacillated repeatedly, sending really serious mixed messages to the hostile elements like those people who have attacked Israel and Hamas. And so, when you get a mixed message, your adversary says, wait a minute, is the Biden administration really sincere? He also made an impassioned view that we need, the United States of America, to accelerate the conveyance of weapons that they need so desperately to end this. You don't want half a fight.
He made that very clear.
Fight to win, then it's over.
He made that very clear that if you will give us the tools, we will finish this quickly if you give us the right tools. Congressman Chris Smith, do you think that the Prime Minister was successful in delivering the right message?
Well, I think it was a grand slam, frankly. I liked what he said. I liked the way he said it. It was a very passionate speech, but very deliberate. He chose, as he even said himself, he chose his words carefully because he knows the American people do want Israel to survive. Hamas wants to eviscerate Israel from the face of the earth. And of course, that's the way Iran feels as well. And that's what they've been pushing forward to for years. So we want to make sure that the greatest ally we have in the Middle East, Israel, which is a democracy, it's a stable democracy, the rule of law prevails, that they are protected. And our weaponry, as he said, I don't want your boots on the ground. We will do this, but we need the tools. And he reminded us of what happened during World War II, when Churchill said, give us the tools and we'll do it. And of course, we provided a great deal of assistance to Churchill against the Nazis.
Chris, let me ask you this question, because you made reference to this used to be a bipartisan effort. You've been in Congress for 41 years. And there was a time when Republicans and Democrats worked together on certain issues. Do you think that he may have moved the needle a little bit when it came to gaining more Democratic support? I was sitting across in the chamber watching Senator Fetterman and Senator Sinema. And they were both applauding. In fact, Senator Sinema was very aggressive in her applause of the Prime Minister. Do you think he may have moved the needle on that front?
It's a great question. Time will tell, but I think it's reasonable to assume that those who were waffling a little bit or wondering on the Democrat side were strengthened, and their resolve was made better by this speech. It was a very, very pivotal and I think important speech to make at this particular time. Unfortunately, the so-called progressives have gone so far. I mean, they are anti-Semitic. And when he called, what has happened in our colleges and universities, including Princeton, and I would add Rutgers in my state and others, when he talked about them as being useful idiots, and that's, goes back to the old Soviet times.
He called them out.
He called them out. Amazingly, they are blatantly anti-Semitic, very prone to genuine violence. It's not just rhetorical. They want to kill Jews. And that's what Hamas has done. And now when you say we're okay with that, we like Hamas, you're okaying the butchers called Hamas. Right. And I also believe, and I say this all the time, the Hamas and those like them are doing a grave disservice to the Palestinian youth. They are poisoning those children with hatred. So why are we surprised
Yes,
when they're 12
yes.
and 13, they're throwing Molotov cocktails and carrying weapons?
Congressman Chris Smith, always great to see you, and thanks so much for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thanks, Tony. Talk to you soon.